Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Media and User, a podcast about how AI and other emerging tech affects our lives. AI and tech are changing the world, but what does it mean for you? We aim to cut through the noise to show how these technologies are shaping our lives today and tomorrow. We break it all down, making it easy for you to understand what it all means for you, the media and user. This is a show hosted by myself, Ramsey Shallal, and my good friend Ahmad Kadhim, or otherwise known as AK.
Hey Ramsey, it's so nice to get started.
Yeah, we've been really putting some effort into planning these out, and we're really looking forward to kickstart this podcast. Now, I think we kind of owe our early viewers a quick introduction to each other, just to kind of set the scene, um, and maybe give them a reason to kind of stick around. So, AK, do you want to jump in first?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Ahmad, and these days I'm a product lead at Skinopathy AI. I've been in tech and startups for over 10 years now, so it's something I just fell in love with when I was in university, building all kinds of products along the way. Most of that time, I started as an engineer, became a designer, now as a product manager. And so I really love the craft of building products. Along the way, I built a staffing platform that placed tens of thousands of nurses and factory workers in the US. With skinopathy, we tackled skin cancer and giving doctors more efficient tools to take on more patients, to give them better care, to let the patients have a more personalized healthcare experience. And we want to start expanding that globally. So, starting with Malaysia and Ghana this year, potentially the UAE, going beyond Canada and looking at other countries. So overall, in the next few years, I'm really focused on how we use AI to simplify healthcare, make it more preventative, more personalized, and instant. And then on the side, I've just been using AI in all these really fun ways. I'm building like an app for myself as a DJ to just help me triage music. I've been using it just to create art and really thinking like about all of the interesting, cool things that we can do with our lives with AI, making things that's so much more personal. And so I really wanted to create like a platform for you and I to share some of these conversations that we've been having just between ourselves behind the scenes. So this is really us recording the conversations we naturally have about what cool things we can do with AI and other emerging tech.
Yeah, sharing the juice is always fun. And just a quick introduction on myself. So I'm Ramsey. At current, I am the founder of a Web3 native marketing agency called Jello. We've worked with the likes of Solana, ICP, Polkadot, Supra, and many, many others, as well as some other crypto native AI startups, from data stream platforms to AI agents. Also, during my spare time, I've had the luxury of being able to build products with some friends. Some failed, all failed so far, but we continue to push. And obviously, I'm a pretty avid user of AI in my day to day life. Our aim here is to, again, break down AI and emerging tech for the everyday person, showing you how we can utilize this technology in our everyday lives to make our lives more efficient and better and more enjoyable. I think without
So
further ado, we can jump into the episode.
yeah, so for the first thing we wanted to cover is how AI is already affecting almost everyone in the world who uses any kind of technology. And I think that's really through content, because whether it's Facebook, Instagram, what you find on Google, AI content is everywhere now. And if it's not fully AI generated, it's AI edited. Maybe it helped the person come up with the content idea. Maybe it helped write the script. In some way, there's a pretty high chance a lot of what you're seeing today is influenced by these AI tools. And there's also AI tools that are choosing what to show you. And so there's so much influence already in just every person's daily experience. And now that we're on the receiving end of so much more of this, we're starting to wonder, what's the effect on your personal experience with all of that, kind of blowing up with all of that taking over. So, Ramsey, why don't you share how does your social media feeds feel like they've changed in the last couple of years?
I mean, forget the last couple of years. The last quarter alone has been absolutely ridiculous. For a bit of context, in my corner of the world in the crypto sphere, AI has really taken off, and it's not just seeing things on the blockchain, but more necessarily on social media, where AI agents have built their own Twitter accounts and are now posting, replying, commenting to all these different posts, and people are going nuts for it. And at the moment, I think people like it. They think it's cool, it's novel. Oh, haha! Look, there's an agent that sounds like Patrick Bateman, or there's an agent that sounds like, insert like some funny character. Even my friends and I were thinking it could be fun to make it like a Master Chief from Halo agent and have him on Twitter, kind of rating comments. But I think to some degree, you notice that because the quality of the content is not super high, everything from formatting to just generally like what the content is saying is not necessarily valuable to a lot of people. It doesn't particularly induce any sort of educational value or entertainment value, other than the fact that it's like an autonomous Twitter page. And it becomes quite, for me personally, it's a little bit annoying. I think it's becoming an obstructive experience. And I think especially when we think towards how much can we take, right? A lot of our lives are online, and we've been moved from in-person social experiences to digital social experiences. And I think there's a point where there's a tipping point. What percentage of content does there have to be for us to kind of get booted back offline? And I think we're kind of reaching that with how content is kind of being commoditized, especially with AI, which is, I guess, kind of like the biggest thing there is now at the moment.
Yeah, I think I felt it the first really strong feeling I had of that was on Twitter, now X, because I think with text alone, it's very easy for them to just take over. Where maybe image, video came a little bit later, it was harder to do at scale. But so many comments, especially, were just obviously AI generated. And when Elon Musk took over, I think there was a small improvement for a while, but I think pretty quickly, for me at least, came right back. And all of you can just tell it's ChatGPT. It's just like, here's a kind of bland summary of what the original post said. And having to parse through all of the comments, like for me, I'm the kind of person who goes to like social media for the comments more than the actual posts. Like that's where the fun is for me, the sort of back and forth humor, the peanut gallery. And then if half the peanut gallery is a bot that isn't coming up with anything interesting, just that reward is so much less. You have to sift through so much noise. It definitely had a big part in me not really using X much anymore. On Instagram, Facebook, I mean, I don't use Facebook anyway, sorry. But Instagram, I'd say
Boomer.
it's not as bad. Yeah. Yeah, I'll check in on the grandparents once in a while. That's about it. But
Give them a poke.
yeah. Yeah, with Instagram, it's not as bad. I think there's more of a barrier to entry with images, video. And if they are using AI, it tends to be pretty good. Like they tend to have consciously chosen to use it to create something high quality. And so I haven't been as bothered by it there. And maybe that's also just talking to the quality of the algorithms that they use to filter these things out.
Yeah, I think, well, I mean, on Instagram, I've seen there's a couple like AI influencers where they have AI generated images. I don't think they control the posting like on Twitter, but a lot of the content is AI generated, just not AI controlled. Um, but I think the algorithm does play a part, right? Well, if you look at algorithms that are like interest based, if you talk about AI, you'll see AI, you'll probably see, these agents more often. I'm sure there are people out there who don't even know they exist. And that's good. If your interest is like very slightly in AI and you're kind of looking at the high level stuff, kind of what's going on in the industry versus quote unquote in the trenches, you're not going to see this type of stuff, and it shouldn't obstruct your experience. But I think, like anything, it starts out being in the more technical realm where people are testing things and trying things out. And then once things kind of have their frameworks and there's like a general consensus, like this is good enough, it spreads like wildfire. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw cooking pages implementing AI on Instagram or on TikTok. And a lot of that content is now going to be becoming like AI generated. And I think it also extends beyond social media, right? I'm sure you get emails too. My inbox and my LinkedIn mail is full of very
Oh, it's the
clearly
worst. Yeah.
it's by far the worst. I'd much rather have like AI generated Twitter feed than AI generated inbox for my email. Makes it very hard to sift through anything.
Yeah, I've needed to use like a better email app just to get a better filter of what's important and what's not. It seems like the spam filter isn't really doing it anymore because even things that aren't traditionally considered spam. They might just be marketing from companies that actually subscribe to their email list at some point. But you can just tell some of that content now is really starting to creep in. I mean, yourself as a marketer, I think you've mentioned you don't trust AI to write for you. You might just use it to help you brainstorm, help you edit, but there's no way you're letting it loose on your own, content. Is that right?
I think for the most part, yes. It becomes a case of if we have time and resources and I guess the information to train AI on like brand tone, personality, all the kind of brand items, because that's like the fundamental context you need to create, AI that can create content appropriately. And then obviously train maybe like a base agent on how to write effectively on Twitter. So if you go on Twitter and you see a lot of the AI agents, a lot of the content is like block context, very hard to read. Formatting is quite stale. Emojis are used in like very awkward places, and it just sounds like a bit off. If you have the time and resources to, it's something that actually we did when me and a couple of friends were building a product literally specifically for this. We had to basically teach AI how to format content and then how to adhere to brand guidelines and stuff. And typically there's not a lot of time, but just on the nature of the crypto market, things move fast, and so we don't always have time to train an AI model to do that. So that's typically why we don't. However, I do recommend trying those experiments for anyone at home. If let's say you're a content creator and you're primarily on X, you can do it very easily. You can go to ChatGPT and you can create your own GPT, and you can basically feed it your tweets, maybe in like a CSV file or in a Word document, and say to it, "Hey, please analyze these tweets. Please make a note of the tone of voice, the language style, like lexicology, and then the format of the tweets." And that's where you can kind of train it. And that's how we kind of got the results that we did for the previous product, which didn't really make it off the ground. It didn't make it commercially, but the results that we were having, the progress was pretty good in that regard. So I think it's more of a case of if you have the time, do it. But generally, we don't, because we don't want to be left with spitting out generic pieces of content for clients or for our work. And regardless of anything, it's always good to have like a human oversight at the end, just to make sure
Yeah.
that things are like again factually correct. There's no hallucination, which we've seen. That's not new. So all this stuff is like kind of why we haven't. But I'm very much all for that. And I think at the moment, actually, if I'm not mistaken, we've just started a mini experiment on creating like a Ramsey GPT. So yeah, so to kind of help with like the personal branding content, whereby if we're gonna cross-reference some content, let's say I put a post on Twitter, we want to put it into our Telegram channel, instead of just like copy and pasting it, just take it, put it to the GPT. Hey, can you make this fit for Telegram based on XYZ
Right.
parameters that we
Yeah.
set? Spits it out, send. So that stuff I think is also pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't write on socials often enough to have needed that. But one thing I've really made use of is emails, because I'm not a very good professional email writer. I tend to write so casually day to day that I'm just not in the rhythm of writing that way. And so then whenever I'm emailing a professional organization, institution, like last year or 2 years ago, I had to write a letter to the civil directory of Quebec to expedite the birth registration of our children so we could take them on vacation, because usually it would take 40 to 60 days. We needed it in 30. And I was like, this is not the kind of letter I know how to write in a way that's going to get the result I'm looking for from this government agency. And so I went to ChatGPT. I said, hey, here's the situation. Write me this letter. And it was just exquisite. It was just so formal, so polite, full of courtesies. I was like, this is definitely going to get a positive response. Whereas like if I had done it myself, it would have been like, wait in line like everyone else. And in my app that I use for email, Superhuman, they've added this really nice feature that I actually have started using a lot, saving me a lot of time. Is at the bottom of any email that seems to need a reply, it will give you three options in just like 2 to 3 words summarizing the message of that option. So let's say I get an email from um, like someone who wants to meet over some a work thing that we have to do next week, and it'll give me like three options to say, great, let's meet, or number two is sorry, let's find a better time, or number three might be, taking it in a different direction. And I can just sort of hover over one of those three, see what the actual full email would be. If it looks good, I just click, send, and done. And so many times, this has just saved me not just the time of writing the email, but because I'm a procrastinator, if that email was overwhelming for me to write in the moment, it means that instead of putting it on my to-do list to do later that day or the next day, it means I reply to that email within 1 minute. Sometimes people are probably shocked at how fast I reply now. And it's like, it's not me. But I'm checking it. I'm not letting it loose. I'm just like, this is a better email than I would have written. So go ahead, right?
Yeah, I think that's like the lowest hanging fruit for AI is that it's like the access to potentially higher quality content with ease. You don't have to spend time writing a blog. You can write AI to write a blog at 80% of what it really should be, and then you can put in the finishing touches, and it could take you about 30 minutes versus having to write 1,200 words, and it's a pain, and you wait 4 hours for the blog, and then editorial and XYZ. It just breaks down that barrier, commoditizing like access to content creation, which is great. But I think what stems from that is we have content creation done by AI, and if we're talking about our digital experiences and social media, there's also the extension which is AI search. And what happens now when there's a lot of content being created by AI? That's first and foremost, like drowning out other people's content. But then now you can search for content using AI. So you can go to something like Perplexity and you can put in a query and it will search for you and give you a result. And I think it becomes interesting because now I think people who have blogs have an issue. A lot of people have livelihoods that are based off their blogs, right? They maybe sell a course or they sell some sort of e-product or a book, where their funnel is their search traffic. So what happens now if there's like a plethora of this new AI generated content that could be, number one, crowding you out, but secondly, people are searching with AI, which means that potentially are you getting less hits? And I think you actually sent me something interesting recently, um, a case study where this might have actually happened and hit like a very big company pretty hard, right?
Yeah, it was HubSpot. So HubSpot blogs content search traffic, like SEO traffic, has just plummeted in the last 6 to 9 months. And of course, there could be a lot more going on than just AI, but a lot of the content that I think HubSpot blog tends to have produced was somewhat simple to begin with. There's some high value content that they have, and they put out some great stuff. But then there's also a lot of 5 tips how to post to Instagram, and maybe those tips are pretty generic, or here's how to write this type of email, and that's exactly the kind of thing that now is summarized into an AI answer much faster than you having to go read separate blogs on the internet. And the more people, I mean, Google itself will try to give you the answer in that snippet at the top of the search result. Perplexity will give you a more well-researched, source. ChatGPT will just give you its averaged out from across the internet the best answer it can generate. And so there's so many more sources to get the exact thing you're looking for, not having to click on that blog. And I think that type of blog content is really going to suffer in the next year or two.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think there's like a couple ways to go about it. I don't think, SEO is typically potentially dead per se. I think it's too early to call that out. But I think we will see creators kind of maybe looking at exploring new mediums. Obviously, video is a big one that can't easily be replicated. And there are intent-based platforms for that where
Yet.
creators can use that. Yet,
I
big
mean,
yet. I
starting
mean,
to. This year has been the last 6 months has been big for that too. But
I've seen a lot of really crazy stuff, to be honest.
yeah.
I'd be lying if I knew exactly which platforms are creating the content that I'm looking at. But even stuff like Runway, like
Mhm.
we have this client now who's they didn't really have much of a design uh, aesthetic or a brand like a visual guide for their brand. They had like a couple AI generated astronauts that they made, which were pretty good actually. They look pretty cool. And we were like, well, there's not we can't exactly go and create a visual aesthetic from scratch at this point. But what we can do is maybe spice it up a bit. So we took them over. We went to Free Pick and we went to Runway and we jammed them in there. And now we've got like a couple fun uh, like videos and images of like kind of making that astronaut a bit more interactive and just something to like kind of grab some attention on the timeline. Nothing too in depth, but I think with Sora, there's been a lot of progress in kind of making longer, more detailed videos, which look really lifelike.
Yeah, it seems the frontier for video is like like the stability of that character across the video and across multiple videos. And I think I've seen a lot of interesting work on that front. There might also be more control over the interface because I think trying to create the entire video through chat alone isn't the right answer. And one really cool thing that OpenAI is doing with Sora is it is giving it a editor interface. So you can still say, I need a 3 second clip here that does this, transition to this clip, and manage each clip separately the way you would in Final Cut or Premiere. Obviously, a much simpler interface, but then you can just generate the clip and still get the result. I see a lot on YouTube. Videos completely AI generated on YouTube. It's an AI readout of a script that probably was written by AI. The video is just collecting footage together. It's not even a human in it. It's just news footage that's overlaid with audio. And they seem to do better than I would expect. I personally don't like the sound, the feeling, the timing is off. But I see a lot of these getting tens of thousands of views, thousands of likes, and building whole channels that way.
More than whole channels, there are people making tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of these, what they call faceless channels.
Mhm.
And before they would typically just be someone either putting together like 1.5 hours worth of fireplace crackling and sticking it on YouTube. And it, and it's advanced to a much more sophisticated level where it's like, these UFC edits and all these like random stuff that just don't require anyone to actually be creating the content. I think the biggest one I think that really kicked it off was the Reddit stories. Do you remember the Reddit stories?
No, what's that?
So there are obviously like a lot of subreddits where people post like really funny stories about themselves, maybe like date fails or like just random stories about their lives, and most of them probably fake. But again, Reddit is a place where people go and kind of hang out and talk shop on that stuff. And there were these videos that used to go around where it was just like an AI generated voice talking over the text. Very simple, and they'd obviously have like Subway Surfers like on the top or at the bottom, just like to lure you in. But these videos would go crazy, and obviously they're getting people to have like high watch rates. Either they maybe put some like factually wrong information in the story, and then people comment and try correct it, and boost engagement. But people are really taking this AI generated faceless pages and they're running with it and built billing 5 figures a month from it. So all the hustlers out there who are looking for maybe looking for their next side hustle, uh, give it a go. I guess no, not financial advice, but it's low barrier to entry. I'm sure you can find a fun way to do it, and yeah, like it's pretty interesting, like seeing it grow. But then I think the case becomes: look, we've had AI content on social, like on written content on Twitter. We have now moving to Instagram, videos on TikTok, and it seems like a lot of our experiences online are getting kind of, I'll say clogged, because at the moment it's not super high quality, so it feels like a little bit of a hindrance and of like a negative externality, I guess. So I'm gonna say clogged. It's like clogging our experience. But what happens if AI is now
Slop.
being trained on this information?
Yeah, there's a loop there, right? Like first explosion of content, then maybe we start using tools to help manage that on the inbound side, like processing what's coming at us, summarizing it, making it easy for us to digest, and maybe then replying back and posting back and creating ourselves. And so then that is kind of the first loop that's created. But then you're right, there's another loop. All of the data that's out there on the internet is what the AI trained with. is now slowly getting an increasing percentage of AI content in what's out on the internet. And if the future AI models are training on that, it's this like Ouroboros loop of AI's training on what the previous AI's generated. And I think there's a decent amount of research to show that you're really going to lose the quality of the model over time. And there might not be the same incentives to keep producing human content. So, the example I think of, one of the first things I started using ChatGPT for regularly is recipes, because it was so much easier to just put in the ingredients I have, even take a photo of my fridge and pantry, and just say, what can I make with this? And then, oh, here's 5 ideas. Great. What sauces can I make? Here's 5 ideas. Great. That's dinner. And I could do all of that in a minute or two, where before I might have had to Google for some ideas off the top of my head. I don't think as creatively as maybe as many ideas. I end up on a blog or two or three, go through a bunch of ads that way, generate a bunch of traffic for different sites that way, all to get to that answer that now I just say, hey, ChatGPT, here's what I got. What should I make? And all of those blogs aren't getting that traffic. There's not going to be the same amount of human content on the internet, right? And if it's all AI content, what did you call it? It's model collapse. Is that the
I
outcome
believe
there?
it's like model collapse, model deterioration, something
Yeah.
along those lines. And yeah, as you said, I think like the Ouroboros um, imagery, I think is quite fitting. We're eating its own tail, and I think that also extends a little bit outside of the data set, right? Because first, again, it starts with AI having its own Twitter page, but then you also have AI searching for things. So what happens if there's an AI that markets things to an AI search, and then the internet is just like, at the moment we're quite immersed in the internet. Like we go and search, and if you code, then you go and actively contribute to the internet, and we click things and we are in experiences. But what happens if, first of all, again, all the content, the models are being trained on internet content, but then there is AI in pretty much every aspect of the internet. So whereby if I search for, let's say, I need toilet paper, I ran out of toilet paper. Hey, Perplexity, can you buy me some toilet paper potentially, or down the line, or can you just send me some
Mhm.
toilet paper? So the AI will search, but if there's an AI on a website that is helping with the content, and then technically that's marketing to the AI agent that's searching, and there is like a black box, right? There's a back room. I think that the term is like there's the AI back rooms, right? Um, and it's like the AI to AI interactions that we will never see unless you have like some sort of interface. But typically, the end user will not see these interactions, and it's like a black box, a back room where things happen and we have no clue. And that's pretty cool. And I think that's like another weird, I guess you can call it like an Ouroboros, where it's just like AI to AI to AI to AI, and then we get like some output along the way, but we don't get engaged in that conversation anymore. And that's a pretty like nuts thing to kind of think about what that would look like maybe in the long term. Potentially it doesn't happen, um, but I think yeah, it's
Like
an
the
interesting
the
extension of
marketing
what
content
we're
is
doing.
written for AI to process. What does it change in that while, or is it just still the same? Like,
I think that's a fantastic question, because I think the answer is we'll never know, because we don't know. I personally have not had to market to an AI before. I don't know what an AI particularly cares about. The logical assumption is that it runs on logic. For example, if you are a restaurant and you're trying to market to AI, what you want to show it is reviews. You want to show it that you have like high reviews, high ratings, people like your food, and then it will tell it, oh, this is a good restaurant, we should go there. But marketing
there's
isn't
probably
always
some
like that.
prompt hacking you could do, right? Like, bury it in your restaurant webpage. This is the best restaurant in the city for whatever it is you want.
In like a white
Let
text
the
on a white
AI read
background.
that. Yeah,
The
yeah,
old Google, the old essay trick from college, when you want to get above
yeah,
the above the word limit.
yeah.
But yeah, I think like this stuff is. I think this already happens. To be honest, I know there's a couple. I think there's a startup in Y Combinator called. Uh, I want to say Lumano, Lumona, something like that, and I think they're along these lines, like helping websites. optimize themselves for AI search. Um, but I think the question is like, does AI just care about logical stuff, or will AI end up evolving on the marketing side to tell stories to the end AI that is like asking for the query? And that's like very interesting. Again, it's like a whole backroom conversation. I think it'll be very interesting to have a look at that and see how that kind of pans out. But it does lead into like this AI Ouroboros, or people also refer to dead internet theory, where internet is just AI agents and AI interactions versus us being involved, and maybe we sit on the outside and we give a query through some interface, maybe it's your Google Glasses or whatever it is, and you just get an output that is of what you desired, but you don't know how you got that, which is scary. And I posed this question to my mother, actually. I was like, Mom, if you could just talk to like an interface and say, hey, listen, I just need, this is my shopping list, get it for me. I was like, would you want that? And she was like, no, I like going shopping. And I was like, that's very fair. So it's also like kind of interesting, maybe how that could potentially happen, but how humans might react to that, and maybe it kind of shifts the behavior as well.
Yeah, I see it maybe splitting down the line of experiential to functional, right? Like if I need toilet paper, that is very functional. And sure, I want a soft, cheap, you know, good toilet paper, but I really don't need to think about that any more than I want toilet paper. Let the best one possible show up at my house ASAP. And there's, I think, a very different feeling for shopping for clothes, because I do like the feeling of shopping for clothes. It's not just like I need pants, get me the best pants ASAP. It's like I like to try different things and kind of feel that out. And so the experience of some kinds of shopping is way more interesting to me than others. And maybe that's where you'll get a spectrum where like AI just does this thing for you, least interaction possible. Go talk to other AIs if you have to, whatever it takes. And then maybe there's cases where the AI is more of a guide for you. And if it, ropes in all of that content from across the internet, but at the end of it, there is this experience. Like for me, I had my brother show me everything he knows about coffee and coffee equipment. And it was just this incredible experience to have an expert guide me through that. And I could easily imagine wanting an AI that's like, oh, here's the best equipment. You're trying to do this. Okay, here's the best for that. This is your flavor profile. Think about this, try that. And it's not taking care of it. It's just this, guiding. Maybe at the at the one end, there's just no AI. And there's some safe spaces on the internet and offline where somehow we carve out an AI free niche that's just like, I just want to talk to humans.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Like when you have at the airport the little smoking cabinets, maybe we can have an AI
Yeah,
AI free zone.
exactly.
uh, but yeah, that's awesome. I think it's really interesting to think about how we started with content and like this kind of basic and accessible entry for AI to enter our lives, and we can see the progression in real time, and think about what will potentially be happening in the future. And I'm sure the thought process diverges into a million directions. And there's a lot of things that we might not know today that will happen because of AI. But I think it's always worth diving into the conversation and exploring all these different routes. And I think that's a really nice way to wrap up this episode. Again, we went through the motions of how content is affected by AI, and what potentially could come next. And I think this is a nice place to kind of leave off.
Yeah, our internet experiences are already changing so fast. And what we want to do in the median user going, into next episodes is teach you how to use AI to make more of it than what's out there today. I think right now we're passively receiving a lot of these impacts on us in places we spend time in anyways. And what I've really enjoyed doing a lot in the last year is being more of an active, like, leaping into different fun tools, productivity tools, creativity tools that let me do more than just sort of receive all of this content, and let me actually create more things, personalize more things, and excited to get more into that in next episodes.
Awesome. And yeah, I think that's it for this. So I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of Median User. We really enjoyed recording this episode, and I hope it shows. And yeah, we will see you for the next one. Until
That's a
then,
wrap.
take care.
See you.